I know you want to hit the ball further. I know that you want to see longer drives more consistently. Who doesn't? It's a wonderful feeling for one thing, but it is also a big factor in shooting lower scores. In fact, one of the most important things you can do on a golf course is ensure that you have a direct line to the flag, to the green, with your approach shot. And you do that by finding more fairways. But how you're going about trying to hit longer, better drives is completely backwards. I'm not really going to be going over anything complicated right here. This is just some tough love for you. That if you want to become a very good driver of the ball, you have to get good at chipping, pitching, and full swing first, before you start trying to hit the ball further. That doesn't mean that we don't practice at all with the driver, and that's why we're here on the range. But how you're going to practice is what's going to make all the difference, especially when you do make it out onto a golf course. We need to ensure that we're very disciplined in our setup, okay? So we're making sure that our hip is definitely higher. Our ball position, okay, is a little bit behind our sternum is just a little bit behind it here, so we can strike on the upswing just a hair. But as I take my setup here in the split stance drill, I'm going to make my pivot just as we did before, from a chip to a pitch to an iron swing, the same kind of feeling, right? So I'm pivoting down and in, and then I'm going to reverse the movement, keeping that left hip higher and accelerating through, not trying to get too open. I'm releasing the club head that way, trying to kind of put a little bit of draw spin on it. That's the tendency that will generally feel a bit natural. If it doesn't, it's probably got something to do with your grip, but you can look at that video to find out more. So all we're doing is repeating the same task of setup, balance, posture. And we're going to do a couple of practice swings to ensure that we are staying balanced, that I'm able to strike the driver from the same placement. So if you take your setup and you make your backswing and you try and commit to the pivot and letting those arms go where they want, and you don't strike it properly, you'll know that something went wrong. So what went wrong there? I'll tell you this, I stayed back. My balance was falling this way. I did that on purpose because I wanted to exaggerate a little bit the sensations that we need to have to make sure that we get solid contact. And the reason why solid contact is so important is because a good strike with a good sequence out the middle of the club face with the correct release and angle of attack is going to send the ball so much further, more so than just trying to swing harder, okay? So be disciplined. Make sure you stick to your tasks. So we make sure that my balance, I'm not too much on my heels, I'm staying poised. When I make my backswing, I feel like I'm somewhere positive that I can swing from, okay? So the idea is that I can get into a placement that feels good, but only when I feel confident with that can I swing through and execute. And until I can repeat that action again and again and again, hitting it confidently, I am not even going to try and do the full stance and make a full swing. But you can do that only once you feel very confident that you're swinging correctly during the split stance drill. Give that a try and you will be hitting longer drives. So we're going to take our setup position here, and you'll find it very difficult because this club is a lot longer. It's a lot harder to control these patterns. So as we do the setup and we're trying to create the same sort of swing movement with those arm positions, right? It's going to be almost difficult to keep control of that pattern, to execute the same movement and strike it well, just like that, by staying in balance. You might be hitting those pretty well already. Do not rush the speed. I don't want you trying to hit this ball further. I know you want to hit it 300 yards, but I promise you, working on smooth contact, being disciplined with the setup to control the pivot and to be able to accelerate through is going to give you the confidence with the driver that you really need. How you grip the club is going to change a lot of how you deliver the club, but right now we're just focusing on the basics, which is the setup, the pivot, okay, the pivot that we're trying to do, and the arm movement here, and making sure that we deliver that with contact. We work on speed gradually to get more distance, and I'm working on that nice little fade, but that solid contact. That's what feels so good. So we build it up, we ramp it up. If you find that you're struggling with this and you're moving off the ball too much or whatever it might be, you're losing balance, go back to iron, go back to pitching, go back to chipping. This is how you get great with every club in the bag. Well, that is it. Almost. Obviously, we haven't been able to cover everything, but there's a reason for that. I want you to focus on that boring word, the fundamentals. And I've mentioned it before, take one step back to take 2 steps forward. Work on those basics. They're not something you should ignore or skip, because I promise you, the better you get at them, the better you're going to be your entire golf game. It's what the best players in the world do. They work on their fundamentals, their setup, their pivot, their grip, the essential stuff that makes the rest easier. But I want you to stay focused on your task right now. We have a membership that you can utilize to make sure that you're following simple golf principles and getting the most out of your specific swing type. Doing this is going to give you the best golf game, the most enjoyable rounds, and progressive learning. It's not always going to be linear, but it's going to be more consistent, and you will see gradual and steady improvement. Thanks for watching, and let me know what questions you have. Cheers.